Today's lesson is going to be about the longest recorded and rated chess game in history. Do you know about it, and how many moves do you think it was?
Wow. Okay, that is really nice and fun and special. No, I mean, I probably heard about it. It probably wasn't that long ago, I think. And moves, perhaps, I'm just guessing over 200.
Yep, that's right. There's a few different records for that. The game that we're going to see today was the one that lasted 269 moves, and it took over 20 hours to end. And it happened in Belgrade in 1989, and it was
Oh,
between Nikolić and Arsović. But of course, this will only be a recap and we'll only stop at interesting moments. But there
okay.
is one more game that I want to mention that
Mhm.
lasted 272 moves that happened just last year in England. So it displaced the other record. But I did want to see the first original longest game because the second one, it was dragged on for a little bit too long in the end. And I find the first one more instructive and
Mm.
it really truly was that many moves.
So there is a chance that the second game, which was longer, they were thinking like, so what was the longest 260? I think we can do that. Come on, let's.
I'm not sure they actually did that, but just the winning phase where
Yeah.
one guy was winning was a little bit long. So this one is a bit more instructive, especially because of the end game that it went into as well.
Okay, I'm super curious what the opening was because that will take away a lot already. Which opening leads to super long
Yeah.
games? D4, there we go. Yeah.
So it ended up being the King's Indian defense, which is always known to be a battle, but I was surprised to see that for the longest game because
That's
it's
fun.
not a solid opening when you think about it.
Was it part, did you ever speak about it in one of your courses?
King's Indian defense? No, only the King's Indian attack, so
Yeah.
as white. But I really loved it because I was a King's Indian defense player at the start.
Hmm.
So it started with pretty normal stuff for both sides, and usually it's it's going to be a very attacking opening, so you don't usually get a really quick draw in this one. Here, e takes d4 is a bit more theoretical, but black went h6. And now, what do you know about the typical King's Indian defense plans? Just briefly.
Oops.
Where does white attack? Where does black attack usually?
Yeah. So white attacks on the queen side, black on the king side.
Yeah, and that's basically what you need to know about the King's Indian
Okay.
defense. These are the main two pawns that are going to happen, and usually white wants the c5 pawn break, while black wants the f5 pawn break. So white creates the weaknesses, black wants to create an attack on the king. And that's exactly what happens for the next many moves. And after some time, black has done their pawn advance. Now white starts to try their pawn advance. But if we just fast forward a few more moves, it does seem like black really took over because white's attack didn't really lead to too many weaknesses, but black would have has started a really big one, and they would have won with correct play.
Hmm.
So this position is already very, very good for black. But still, white tried to defend and not blunder anything, and it worked for a very long time. Now, black has so many threats, could have played maybe queen h5 and then pursued g3, and it does look
Yeah.
really, really good. But instead played g3 right away
Hmm.
and went for this, knight h3, which looks very fancy, but it does give up some of the advantage, and white got a pawn. So if black doesn't have anything, and it already looks like the king is a bit safer than before, then white can potentially start to take over if they survive this attack.
Hmm.
So a few more moves followed, and then this was the middle game that they got to. In the next part of the game, lots of back and forth inaccuracies followed. So, for example, White's correct plan was to play knight g3 and to take the f5 square, which looks really good. But instead, he played a little bit slower, and now Black's chance was to play knight g4. And this
Oh.
would have been a really good chance to take over the initiative a bit more. However, both of them played a little bit differently. And now, after this, which tactic do you think White went for next? It's,
Okay. What could it be? Which tactic?
it's a one-move tactic, but it's just funny to see.
Oh, why don't I see it? Um, is it knight h5? No,
No,
that
it's
doesn't
not knight
make
h5.
sense. Whoops! I don't know what's happening.
I'll tell you who it's about, maybe. It's about this knight,
Yeah, I thought
and it's
so.
about this king, and it's indirectly about this queen. I think now you'll get it.
It's just check on e7? No.
No.
Oh dear, I am absolutely I don't see it. What's
Okay,
happening?
I'll show you. It's queen takes g4. It's not like you win anything, but it's but you just it's just a funny queen sack and then knight h6.
Okay. Well, that's a bit sad. Okay.
No, it's okay. You don't win anything in that line. We just trade in, so that's okay. And then they went into this ending,
So how many moves have been played so far?
40.
Oh my goodness.
But a lot has already happened. So for sure, in these long games, the most of the moves come from the end game itself.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been 40 moves, which is already a lot. So this ending was played for a while with the rooks. Then a pair of them is going to get traded like this. Then they play with two pieces and a rook. And a pair gets traded like this. And we
Okay.
go into opposite colored bishops and rooks, which seems like a recipe for a draw, but really a lot happened in between.
All right.
So white goes bishop here, and this position is actually not a draw. And the reason for that is that the king is in a bit of danger, and rook h3 is a very, very dangerous invasion.
Mm-hmm.
So black plays rook here, but that walks into rook d1.
Okay.
Now, rook h1 is a really big threat. If black plays bishop to f2, then this is actually very dangerous for black.
Hmm.
And white can basically choose if they want to take these pawns, if they want to take this pawn. But I think they want the one on d6. So if possible, they'll take the one on d6. And this will be a very close to this would be a very good endgame for white, which is winning.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, black goes bishop to h2, and they maybe thought that this works, rook g3. But after all of that, there's king to h3, and suddenly the bishop gets lost.
Oh yeah.
So this was the next part of this game, and white is totally winning now with a full piece for only a pawn. But turns out it wasn't that simple.
My
So
gosh.
white definitely tried. It looks like you don't do much, just bring over the king. But then suddenly one pawn is gone. And suddenly this other pawn becomes very far advanced. And here, what would have worked is white already had to be precise and play bishop to e8,
Oh.
and only then play rook a7. And the reason for that is that now that the check comes, this king has been pushed away, and this king can advance, and if it goes into e6, that's game over. But
Oh.
white right away went here, and this king wasn't able to advance because of this check. And instead, the black king was able to advance and attack the pawn.
Oh
Now,
no.
this happens with the idea
How
of
many moves do we have now?
72.
That, I mean, you at home, that's a bit wild, isn't it? 72 moves and we're
Yeah.
not even one third through.
Yeah.
We are actually just barely.
Yeah. So now the idea was rook here in case this pawn gets taken. And so the bishop moved away. This happens, and what do you think about the ending now? Do you think it's closer to a draw? Does white still
Oh
have a chance?
goodness. I wonder. I really wonder how white can convert this. So rook a5 is almost a given, I think.
Yeah.
But what happens then? I mean, cannot the rook just try to stay there forever? G2, for example. And then the oh, it's very tricky because if the king goes to e1, then king e3. If the check, the king goes up again. That is very unclear. I don't know.
Yeah, so now the ending has changed, and I would say this one is a draw
Wow.
because there's not enough pawns left, and the rook and the king are active enough to make this work. So the position is equal. But of course, white can still play on because they do have an extra piece after all of that. And so that's what happened. This next part is also very long. The bishop finally reached a good square. Um, and now basically white will make it their mission to try to win some of the pawns.
Oh, now we're
And the
speeding up.
first, mm,
Now we're speeding up, I said.
yeah, and the
Ooh.
first target is to first not lose our pawn on d5, but also to try to win black pawns. And of course,
Oh.
they went on for a very, very long time. White did try to do this. So now the exchange of pawns happened. The one for d5 got traded for the one on e3. And this one, if you already know about the bishop and rook endgame against rook, you know that that one is a draw. So if you add the pawn onto it as well, it would be a draw as well.
Mm-hmm.
But this bishop versus pawn phase began, and I'll probably just skip the next like 50 moves because that's all they did
Wow.
is play around like this. But there was a change that did happen. Oh, missed it. So the pawn got lost like this.
That's
So
a pawn.
finally, the pawn got taken. And the funny part is that the FIDE rule at that time allowed to play for a win up to 100 moves without a piece being captured or a pawn made or a pawn being moved in some endings, including the rook versus bishop and rook. So it was only a rule in some endings,
I
including
didn't
this one.
know that. How cool is that?
Now there's no exceptions allowed to the 50 moves rule, but this endgame is, of course, very famous and it's known to be very difficult. Do you know anything about it, either from defensive or from the attacking side?
Well,
Have you ever had it?
I had it and I won. It
Ah,
was a
nice.
long time ago and I won. And when I had this, there were some comments around the game. I was very young and they said, like, well, good luck with that or something like this. It's like
Mm-hmm.
almost, yeah, if you play correctly, it's almost impossible. But yeah, it worked somehow because my opponent made some mistakes, of course. So I got some help. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it. Yeah, but I don't
Yeah.
know how. I didn't. I there was no clear idea why or how I could manage to do that.
Yeah, for sure. It's easier to be on the attacking side because you just have to move and try to create problems, and definitely harder on the defensive side.
Yeah.
But theoretically, this ends in a draw with best play.
Wow.
So definitely black has a chance of holding, but it is difficult. But I would say that here, the step one is always to try to cut off the king, and the defensive side tries to not let that happen.
So
So that's exactly,
I have to quickly
yeah.
ask you, have you ever had something like this? Because it is
No,
something.
I didn't.
Oh, you
I've never had
didn't.
this one,
And
but I've had rook versus rook and the F and H pawn
mhm.
like 5 or 6 times, which is very rare, and I don't understand why I've had it so many times.
Yeah, that is also that's a
But I had
classic.
rook and knight versus rook recently, where I had the
Oh.
knight and then I didn't win.
Okay, so here was the follow-up question. So you have a lower rated player, I would say. You would try to play on too, right? It's
Yeah.
your yeah, it's your right, absolutely, because there are chances. You wouldn't go like, well, it's technically a draw, good game, or think
Even
so
with
of.
higher rated player, I think you should play.
There we go. See, I didn't
Yeah.
didn't know if that would be something to think of. Yeah, nice insight. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's
Mhm.
continue.
Yeah. So white tries for a long time to cut off the king, and it does work. So I'm skipping over this phase a little bit because this is just white trying to achieve it, and suddenly it gets quite close. So the king is on the
Yeah,
last
that's
rank.
always the case, and then it's difficult.
Yeah, so white was successful in that. And this is a key position now. There's only one saving move for black now, and I think this one is a good sort of takeaway from this. What is the saving move? White is threatening just checkmate.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, I don't see anything else than Rook F1.
And that's the correct one. Rook f1 is the right move, and this ends up being a draw because you can cover with the rook, and then the king can escape if the check happens, and if white does anything else, then the drawing mechanism, so this one threatens a checkmate on this side, the drawing mechanism now is to play this, and then if king e5, then you can stay on the sixth for now, and if bishop e6, then king f8.
Hmm.
So this is a draw. Can play anything there, but you escape with the king from the checkmates.
Oh, it looks really close, all of this.
It is very, very close in this one, so this is the key position for that
Yeah,
reason. But rook f1 is the only move here. But
makes
what happened in the game is king f8. This is move
F8.
200, by the way.
Oh. By the way, I
And
completely get, as you mentioned already, it's easier to play the attacker here, but I completely get why you should play it because it is difficult to
yeah,
defend.
definitely the bishop and the rook, definitely.
Mm.
Now white had one chance to win. It's kind of difficult to find the winning technique if you haven't seen it before. But basically, for the rook and the bishop, you always need to balance the two types of checkmates, the one from like the right side and the one from the left side. So you
Hmm.
always try to do these two types of checkmates and threaten them. And the key to winning here is rook f7.
Hmm. King
King
goes
will not go to
back, of
g8, of
course,
course, so it goes here.
and now you go on the other side.
Yes, but not right away. You go first rook f3, and you do this so that's well, well, first of all, you don't want the rook to come in and do that, but also this kind of gives this gives you an important move. So basically, if the rook moves away, then you can move away with the bishop, and that's going to be checkmate. But if the rook goes anywhere else,
Oh.
it doesn't matter really where it is. But the idea is to play rook a3, which is not that easy, but now you threaten checkmate here,
Yeah.
and if the king goes here, then the idea is rook g3, and the checkmate is not
Yes,
bottom.
think I've seen Hikaru Nakamura do this very recently. Exactly this. This is the thing
Yeah.
to remember and recognize. Interesting.
Yeah, so that's the
Hmm.
important winning technique to know, and I think it's hard to come up with it if you haven't seen it before. But that's how you can win the rook and bishop versus rook. And that was White's only chance in this game. But instead, after this, they did not find rook f3 or rook. By the way, rook f2 or rook f4 also works.
Ah,
But instead, they played rook g7, and now rook f1 happened, and it ended up being a draw because from then on, Black defended super well, and there was no other slip ups for anybody. And they played a bit more, but nobody blundered again, and this ended up being a draw after the 100 move rule, I assume, was reached back then. So this was a nice historic game,
crazy. Yes.
and I think we can learn a lot from every phase, but I especially liked learning about that, like seeing that end game in action.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was it. 269 moves.
That is awesome. You said we will take a quick look at the other game of the 272 moves.
No, I wasn't going to show
Ah,
it
you
today.
don't
I was
was
just
okay.
going to mention it,
Mhm.
but I can attach it if you would like.
Okay. Thank you everybody for watching. Yeah, this was a great game. I didn't expect it to be that informative. Thanks a lot, Svitlana.